Hello, viewers of Afric Media. Once again, it's a pleasure having you on this edition of the Pan-African Debate. It's always a great pleasure knowing that you're watching us. And today's program, just like usual, we're going to focus on issues affecting the African continent. Today, we're talking Pan-Africanism in the 21st century. Is it rhetoric or reality? That's our focus. Today, we're talking about this topic, which comes shortly after the Togolese government, in partnership with the African Union, organized the 9th Pan-African Congress that held in the Togolese capital in Lomé, which brought together African leaders, delegates, ministers, and lots of people to discuss on renewing Pan-Africanism. Of course, the 9th Pan-African Congress in Lomé, Togo, reignited debate on whether 21st century Pan-Africanism delivers unity or remains hollow rhetoric amidst governance failures and Western dominance. Earlier icons like Kwame Nkrumah forged the Organization of African Unity and dreamed of a United States of Africa, while Julius Nyerere and Haile Selassie championed non-alignment and collective self-reliance. Their era bettered solidarity against colonialism, setting precedents for modern frameworks like Agenda 2063. After several decades, little progress seems to be made. Thus far, of course, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement drives intra-Africa trade towards 50% targets, with free movement protocols and energy integration advancing economic sovereignty, yet impossibility to move around Africa remains. Colonial borders still divide us. The continent is still not represented on international discussion tables. Talking about governance roadblocks, sit-tight leaders equally prioritize Western loans and resources over continental interests, fueling corruption that prompts 58% youth immigration. ECOWAS fractures from coups highlight rhetoric's unity without enforcement. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger now stand as a bloc. Yet the franc CFA remains a colonial currency that has failed out, has held hostage the economic development of 15 African countries. The continent remains heavily indebted. Of course, you can equally call it debt traps, despite $100 billion foreign remittances. Awakening youth demand accountability beyond summit. Pan-Africanism edges towards reality if, of course, Lomé's declaration yields fruit. We're discussing Pan-Africanism and Pan-Africanism in the 21st century. Thanks for joining us this day on the program. Welcome to the Pan-African Debate. Pan-Africanism in the 21st century, rhetoric or reality? It's our topic of discussion this day. Welcome to join us on the Pan-African Debate. It's always a pleasure knowing that you're watching us, and thanks for always being there. We equally apologize for the late start, and we be joined this day to discuss on this topic. We have with us, let's begin right away, to welcome Ambassador Brigadier General Wallace William. You're a Pan-Africanist, and it's a pleasure having you, Your Excellency, on today's program. Welcome to join us. Your mic is certainly off, Your Excellency. Please, you can turn on your microphone, please.
Right. Can you hear me now? I said thank you very much.
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much for joining us. We equally have Dr. David Matsanga. You're a political scientist and international relations expert. Dr. David Matsanga, it's a pleasure always to have you on the program.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether you are hearing me or not.
Yes, I can hear you very well, Dr. David Matsanga.
Although this side I look like I'm muted.
No, of course, we can hear you from this end clearly, perfectly.
Thank you very much for inviting me here today. Thank you very much to our listeners and those watching us across.
Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. David Matsanga. We equally have with us here in the studio. It's Mr. Ndium Emmanuel. You're a civil society actor. It's a pleasure having you on today's program. Welcome to join us, Mr. Emmanuel.
Yeah, thank you very much, Luis, and good afternoon to all the viewers of Afric Media, especially those who are watching us from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure to be on this platform especially when we want to talk about things that concern Africa.
Yeah.
Especially the topic today is a very intriguing one, because we are found on the crossroads of governance in the whole of Africa with a lot of similarities, and those similarities are not positive similarities. Of course, they remain very negative similarities, and I'm beginning to wonder if there are other continents in the world that have any lesson to write home from most African countries. If not all the African countries, but 80% of the African countries have proven that their governance system is a sham. They have countries that they are managed as if they are family properties. And so when we are called up to give our contribution on such topics, when the time permits, we always answer present. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ndio Emmanuel. Just like you've highlighted, Africa is on the crossroad, and we're looking at 21st century Pan-Africanism and the possibilities of achieving what today's Pan-Africanists stand for. Let's begin with you, Ambassador Wallace Williams. You attended the 9th Pan-African Congress in Lomé, recently organized by the Togolese government in partnership with the African Union, which had a focus on renewing Pan-Africanism and possibly positioning the African continent on the global stage. Let's begin. What's your take from that particular summit that brought together several leaders and ministers, delegates as well as the diaspora meeting in the Togolese capital? Renewing Pan-Africanism. Right. Yeah. Can you hear me, Ambassador?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
So first to begin, it was good that it happened. That's the first thing. We needed to have a vehicle. I don't care where it was, what location was decided. The important thing was a coming together and a getting together of Pan-Africanist minds, whether they were diverse or not, to come together to filter out what we need to do. You are right that we are at crossroads. Rhetoric is for real. Everybody talks every time, and then 10 years pass, a decade pass, nothing has been done. So that's the rhetoric. The reality is that we have some real implementations now on ground that we can see physically. And that's the important thing for me. As a person who thinks militarily, strategically, what is the roadmap? What is the implementation plan? Well, we have a reference point now, the Sahel. AES, and that is Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, have a roadmap. They are implementing that roadmap. They have shown that confederation and unity works. They are facing the enemies together by consolidating together, so they cannot be hand-picked out. And what I find very startling is that the African Union will want to go against such an implementation to show that there is movement forward, getting rid of the colonial powers, imperialists and neocolonials. They should be happy that we now have a plan and a model that can be replicated across the entire continent. Why? Because we have sit-tight despots, we have what we call geriatrics in power, we have families who think that being in power is for them and their families alone and their cabals, and we are now seeing a new breath of fresh air by the youth of Africa, albeit in military uniform, and perhaps that is the only way that we can move forward. We have to have a revolution. We have to have men in uniform who think for their country, for their people, have the discipline, have the focus. So that is the model that we are seeing now that we must adopt, that we must implement. You know, Malcolm X said, by any means necessarily, and that the revolution will never be advertised. So we don't need to advertise revolution. We just need to do it. What is young Captain Traoré doing? He has made sure he's closed off and looked inwards. And that's the Chinese model. The Chinese closed off their entire population for over 30 years and built from inside out. And that has worked. Every street has a People's Liberation Army liaison person, so that they keep order, they keep strict control, they ensure that you are carrying out the wishes of the government of the day, and that you're carrying through the plans led by Mao Tse-tung. Mao Tse-tung had a 5-year plan for 50 years, and they were working it every. It didn't matter who came into power from the communist hierarchy, because they work in a communist system. But everybody had to carry it. It wasn't a question of using things and systems like democracy and presidential status and that sort of nonsense, where as soon as you come into power, you stop what the next man did, because it doesn't fit your bill. You are doing what you want for you and not for the country. We need to look like that. We need to adopt that militaristic approach. We should and must have, and I promote it, an African People's Liberation Army. Every community, every street should have one person that belongs to an African People's Liberation Army and report on all the abuses that go on in their communities, stop the resources from being exploited, and, look inward. He has looked inward. They said they didn't want to send them any grains and rice, etc. He has now got so much rice they can export, but they're going to use it for the AES and the Sahel. Tomato factory. He's doing everything inward, and he's not talking, he's just doing implementation, and that takes discipline, and that takes a military mindset, and that is why we must have that sort of attitude across the continent. We must implement the AES model. That's what we have currently to save the continent.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We got that very clearly. Implementing the AES model, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Dr. David Matsanga, the possibility of implementing what is happening in Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali is what equally Ambassador William Wallace says the African Union is probably going to go against such models. Now, what do you think, and how do you think we can implement or replicate what is happening in the West Africa, in other parts of Africa? We're probably going to come back to Dr. David Matsanga shortly. While we're waiting to reconnect with Dr. David Matsanga, Mr. Diome Manuel, everybody admires what is happening in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. But the issue is, the key problem is, how do we replicate that in other parts of Africa? Is there a possibility to achieve that in other parts of Africa?
No, before I come to your question, it is good that we recall that when we talk about Pan-Africanism, Pan-Africanism by itself, it was an ideology that some African great minds back at the time brought it up, which incarnated some particular values. Their values were the values of unity, solidarity, liberation of all people of African descent, and they emphasized on shared heritage, culture, and struggle against colonialism. When we must have planted this decor, we will come back to understand that the question you are asking and the topic which is on the screen, whether Pan-Africanism in the 21st century is a rhetoric, it's a reality. Structurally, to answer you, it's a rhetoric, and it's even a wrong rhetoric. Because you would understand that some time ago, around 2019, when we were creating our organization, New Era Youth for Africa, we had some great minds who had ideas like, if there was a way to push forward for an African Solidarity Pact, it would have been possible for Africa to act or to behave as a bloc, not as individual nations. But you understand that what Traore is doing, Assimi Goïta, and the other persons, they are almost like fighting alone. Very few African nations are giving them a pat on the back. What is stopping Cameroon? What is stopping Nigeria? What is stopping Chad? What is stopping Congo? What is stopping other African countries to actually align with these young guys to fight a common fight, which is a fight against colonialism? The answer is simple. The answer is very simple because African leaders, for the most part, who are criminals, who are thieves, who are not for their people. They have sold their people back to the colonial people, back to the Western world, and you understand that most of them are aware, should they come together to form a bloc and fight against the Western world, they will lose the personal gains that they are having in all of this. You need to also understand that most African countries, most African leaders, they do not render account to the African population, citizens. They render account to people in the Western world. Take the case of Cameroon, 2019 failed national monologue that they call a dialogue in Cameroon. Where did Mr. Biya render his account? Leaving Yaoundé to Douala to Bamenda to Boya, the distance was too much for him to go down to the people and render account to the people. But moving from Yaoundé to Paris, the distance was very short. He went and rendered account to Macron on what is happening, his grandchild, his grandson, to what is happening in his country. He is not alone. Look at Nigeria, Tinubu with the multiple bilateral agreements he's developing today with France. They are killing his country. He doesn't bother to talk to the people back in Nigeria, but he prefers either to go to Britain, even stay there until his citizens are not even aware of when he left and when he's returning. But then, when you look at all of this put together, you see that all the values that our founding fathers of Pan-Africanism, like Kwame Nkrumah, Dubois, Ferhat Abbas, Lumumba, Haile Selassie, and the rest, they have taken the new African leaders have taken a contrary view. They have taken a view which is contrary. The values of unity, solidarity, is what African leaders do not want today, because what can maintain them in power for long is divide and rule. And to better rule them, make them enemies. All these things are vices against the values of Pan-Africanism that our forefathers fought so much and so hard to make sure that an Africa exists where the people identify within themselves, by themselves, and they live together, and they believe that living together was the best thing Africans could use as their PowerPoint of development. Now, today, countries, everybody wants to go in the dispersed rank. Cameroon would not like to align with Burkina Faso to fight colonialism, because they know it is from the colonial power that she's deriving her power of dictatorship to put his people under his whims and caprices for 44 years. Nigeria will not want to do the same, because they know that if you do that, you will pay a price by losing your position as a president. Whereas these people, the fathers of Pan-Africanism, they were not for power. They were for collective development. If not, people like Nkrumah, they never for once thought that living and dying in power was a virtue. They saw it as a vice. But today, we have criminals who hang on power for so many years. They kill even their population. Where are they taking the guns to kill their population? They are taking it from the Western world. We see armor cars littered in almost all African countries that are in war. But we know, you and I, these African countries, they don't fabricate armor cars. They don't fabricate AK-47s. Where are they coming from? So this new colonial accord is being maintained in the guise of bringing peace in Africa, whereas they are doing everything possible to make sure that they keep their people in bondage. They take the new colonial system is our presidents in Africa taking us hostage, recolonizing us, and no longer the Western world.
All right. African leaders taking hostage their people to protect the interests of the West. That's the point of Mr. Njom Manuel. Dr. Matsanga, you're back. We're looking at Pan-Africanism in the 21st century, and just like from what Mr. Njom was saying, the role of African leaders, most of whom we've seen not having that interest in the development of their countries, not interest in pushing forward the growth of the African continent as a whole. Most of what they do is protect the interests of the Western allies, those who probably helped them to come to power. With all of this, the dream of a united Africa, the dream of our forefathers who began this race of Pan-Africanism, how do we realize that? We had Ambassador Wallace William, who talked about, replicating what we are seeing in the AES nations. But the point is, these leaders who have no interest in developing their continent and protecting the interests of the West, how do we deal with all of this?
I'm one of those who supports what the ES has done, what Burkina Faso. I agree with the ambassador, what Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have done. They are very good. They have set very good examples. Why? We have very wrong people on the continent. And I agree with my brother in the studio there. These guys just protect what was there. 67 years down the road, Africa still thinks of borrowing. And when they ask you of accountability, you don't want to account. Why do we borrow money for elections? Why do you go to UK, to European Union, that, we are coming to organize, educate you on elections? That is another way of recolonizing you. Neocolonialism has come in so many ways. A country like Nigeria shouldn't even borrow money. A country like DRC Congo should not borrow money. Not only those, every African country should run its own election. But here we are, we have a problem. And then we call ourselves, we celebrate Independence Days. Useless. What independence is there now when you cannot even run your own election? You are supervised. And when you make mistakes, they say, we gave you our money and you did not use it properly. That's point number one. Point number two, the leaders who stay too much in power, your place there, you have a problem. I don't want to discuss so that your TV is shut off. I don't like the way abductions, abduction. You abduct people. Tinubu abducts people from very far. Buhari. All these type of leaders we have in Africa are dangerous. Some of them, most of them cause a lot of agony more than the imperialists. Then we come to the set of people we have now, the generation we have. It is maybe me and my brother here, and the bit of I can see the younger man in the studio is good, is very good. You and I, we still understand what Pan-Africanism is, because African Union, OAU, found us, at least OAU found me when I was 6 years old. No, 7 years old. I was already grown. I was grown. I understood. Our African Union, the OAU that we had, was formed for liberation of African continent. It has overlived. It still has the same charter. My brother will agree with me. We are still using the same charter. We have not reformed it to the current dispensation. We have not brought up to speed the younger generation, like the gentleman in the studio there. It's good that he has picked very quickly and seen something is amiss. Otherwise, our AU is dead. Brother, what are you talking? You know, I told you the other time when you bring me to this studio, stop talking about that word, please. The AU. Don't tell me, Dr. Matanga, I don't want to hear. It is captured. It has been captured by the French. ECOWAS is captured. Who has captured ECOWAS? France. Who pays for the salaries? France. EU, East African Community, captured where I was born. They even borrow money openly. Oh, we want EU to subsidize. Captured. SADC, captured. AU itself borrows money from European Union. How will you tell them to get off your continent when you are a beggar permanently 67 years after Nkrumah declared independence? We are still permanent in the same position. Then the third factor, which is creating more chaos today. I was one of the people who did not want this current chairperson of African Union to take over from the tall guy from Chad, who cannot go home now. He's in exile in Iran because he helped to destroy Idris. He killed Idris. He knew the plan that was killing Idris. Idris died because of Libya. The rebels that killed Idris came from Libya. You remember? In South Libya, we have 30,000 troops. My brother, the ambassador here, you know that. Over by General Khalifa Haftar. Look at that. And you people, especially the younger in the studio, mark this and loud it louder. That if you tell them you have over 30,000 troops well armed, for who? For who? To destabilize the region. To supply mercenaries to Darfur region. To supply mercenaries to destabilize Tenor, Chad, because of Muhammad Faki. That's the truth. General Khalifa Haftar has divided Libya. And Libya is in two parts. And African Union, you tell me African Union, brother, don't bring that thing called, when I'm talking on this program, please avoid it. Because I'm one of those people who has cried more about AU and AUC. If Raila Odinga was elected, Raila Odinga can move in a country and say, no, you are suspended. You are not democratic. Look at this man we elected of Djibouti. French mole. A French puppet working for French intelligence. And then you say there's African Union. Where's African Union? Let me ask you people, you are in Cameroon. I'm a lawyer for the Naira 10. International lawyer for Naira 10 who are abducted from Abuja. I know a lot, and I don't want to tell you, you'll cry tears. If you go to African Union and ask for documentation of the people who have died or who are in prison from Cameroon where you are, they don't have a record. They don't have. Ambassador, that's the truth.
Yeah.
And you have a man, a Yoruba stupid quank called Ambassador Bankole, stupid, earning money in dollars, flying with AU passport everywhere. If you are on the plane and you are not going to be knocked out because they say they are bringing an ambassador, a short guy like this from Yoruba, who cleans the record of Paul Biya, cleans the record of Muhammad Buhari, cleans the records of all people. You can imagine all the people who have died in southern Cameroon and the Cameroon general. No record in AU. No record. 3,000 prisoners over filling the prisons. In Yaoundé, you have no record. I don't know how that man speaks and survives in the studio.
All right, Doctor.
So for me, no. I'm a worried man.
All right.
As an African.
Okay, Doctor.
No, wait first. As I finish, as a worried man, Ambassador, I'm very worried man that our African Union is gone.
Okay.
Two, Pan-Africanism has remained commercial. Look at PLO Lumumba. Invite him to speak here. He will tell you how much money do I. I'm telling you, yes. How much money will you pay me? Another woman in in Zimbabwe, how much will you pay? They come for conferences. Brother, Ambassador, mark this. They don't come here to educate people like you are giving knowledge today. Or Matanga is giving knowledge. Me, I don't charge anybody for my knowledge. But Pan-Africanism has become a commercial entity again. You call me to go and praise Tinubu. I will not come even if you give me $1 million. Because Tinubu, first of all, is supposed to be in prison, not supposed to be in Aso Rock. Supposed to be in jail. We have no credibility in some of the presidents. We have no credibility. And this now, how can Pan-African grow? There is one thing that I have as I land. In my country, we have one man who likes Pan-Africanism. We have been fighting together. I became a soldier at the age of 18 in Tanzania. And we fought, we removed Idi Amin. But there's one credit you should give President Museveni. The first thing he does, he talks in every political African, whether home or where, Pan-Africanism. Give President Museveni a credit. That gentleman, you can call him, he has stayed, he has that. No. Stayed, but look at the people who want to replace him. They play guitar. Who do Ugandan can agree to a guitar man to rule? Even me who is in opposition, I would rather vote Museveni than a guitar boy, small boy of guitar. Are you Bob Marley? Ugandans are not Bob Marley. Ugandans are different. We have gone to places to debrief Makerere University. How can you bring a man like that to play guitar on us? Museveni win that election. But there is one thing that you see all the time about Museveni. Museveni likes Pan-Africanism. If we elected him to resuscitate Pan-Africanism on the continent, he will pay his money. He can pay any money, build an office for it. If people were united.
Okay, Doctor.
Thank you. That is my contribution.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. David Matsanga. Hopefully, we're going to come back to you just very shortly. Just like we talk with Ambassador. Now, Dr. David has raised the issue of the African Union, which many believe is the model institution that should implement this decision, should implement Pan-Africanism, should, push for African unity. But now, the African Union is losing credibility and is losing its influence on the African continent. Ambassador, if there are certain reforms that should be made in the African Union that is going to help uniting Africa and pushing for African development, what do you think should be done?
Yes, I have no doubt that they have lost all credibility, and they have been proxy for people to pay them, and which is France and others who pay their bills. And I think the first thing they should do is remove them. Remove observers from all these other countries who are not Africans and who want to sneak in to find out what we are doing, how we are doing it, what decisions we are making with the observer status. So remove them. Let Africa pay for the African Union expenses, operation, and for maintenance of their buildings, etc. If you cannot do that, then you don't have an African Union. That's number one. Number two, if they are really an African Union like the European Union, they should not have the individual nation states, because I don't call them countries. They were subdivided in 1884, the Berlin Conference. The first thing they should do is, as a union, represent the entire continent when it comes to inward resource mining and discussion and negotiation on coming to participate in the continent. We should not have to be facing, as individual nation states, debts from China, debts from IMF, debts from World Bank, etc. All of these organizations we should get rid of and look inwards, put our funds that we have together against the resources which we have, which runs into trillions, and create our own central bank, an African Development Central Bank, create our own infrastructure to serve us, not Lobito Corridor going out to the coast to take out the resources, and most importantly, local content, like I preached to Magufuli before he died, and at the at the Tanzanian conference some time ago to talk about developing local content on the continent. And local content means that you are bringing your equipment, but you will transfer technology. You're bringing investment, but I have said that we want triple S, and that is, the triple S is a stipend, a salary, not a wage, and a shareholding. And the reason for that is you are coming into my domain to exploit my resources. I am a shareholder. I am a salaried shareholder as well. So I will be working in the company, with the company, monitoring what is going on, transferring of technology and training, and then pay us also a stipend, because you're paying a stipend for the fact that you are working in my community and taking my resources to be a product. But instead of it being exported, I want us to be in all aspects of the value chain. That is local content. So we will process, we will manufacture, we will trade what we have made among ourselves within the continent before we export anything. The Jews, their money goes around 16 times before it leaves their hands. Our monies as well must go around ourselves 16 times before it leaves the continent. Never mind leaving your region, never mind leaving your community. So we buy local, we make local, we trade local, we export local, we export regionally, we put the infrastructure in place. Right now, they should stop the Lobito corridor and just put extensions along the corridor to other countries where we can move and exchange and barter our resources, put them into a one cooperative area where they can manufacture like types, where they can start making products. We have lithium, let's start making batteries. We have uranium, let's start doing electricity for all. I have said that we, and you talked about institutions before, we are never accepted in these institutions. I have already promoted the idea of ADGI, African Development Goals Initiative. Let's have a yearly goal initiative for the entire continent, peer-reviewed at the end. So is it health for all this year? We build hospitals, we build health centers. Forget about building stadiums. Is it that every African is an athlete? No. Let's look after our health. The next year, do we have food sovereignty? Next year, let's have education for all. Next year, let's have whatever we decide as our yearly African development goals. What the hell is UN SDG 2063? That has nothing to do with us. The United Nations development goals, that's for them. We are not even accepted at the United Nations, and that comes to the other point. I don't want us to belong to a UNGA anymore. We should set up ANGA, African General Assembly, African Nations General Assembly. And we every year start to talk about our problem. We will never get seats at the UN equal to anybody else to be able to determine. We are, at the moment, 56, including the 6th region, 56 nation states. What the hell are we doing going to the UN when as soon as you get up, your entire audience is empty? They're not going to listen to you. Why? Because they know they're already controlling you. But everybody is full when every other big major country is talking, and you're not part of it. You don't even have observer status. Forget them. Set up ANGA. Set up African Development Goals Initiative yearly and peer review it every year among all of us. And the AU sign contracts on behalf of all the states of the African continent. That is the unity that we have to have if we are talking about reality. That is the reality. The rhetoric is what we see every year. So instead of the 9th Pan-African Congress and another 10 years before we have another one, let us have a Pan-African Congress every year that reviews exactly what we decide as a roadmap, like the Chinese did. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. What Europe did to become the euro when all the currencies crashed, let's do the same. Let us have the Afro. We're already looking at Standard United Digital African Currency Contract for the AFCTA. Let us now start to trade among ourselves, bypass, because of digital technology, bypass SWIFT, bypass America, bypass UK, bypass France, and trade among. So that is why I'm saying, and the AES has just invested almost $1 billion into having an AES investment bank. That is showing the way. That's a micro model of the continental model. Let's implement the AES model for the rest of the continent. If the youths have to rise up and have a revolution, so be it. Rise up and get rid of these despots. Rise up and get rid of these sit-tight geriatrics. Rise up and put your own people in place. And if you have to use the military to do so, as the AES has done, do so. That's the reality. Let's not play about with the Union of Africa. We have to talk serious. Didn't the French have a French Revolution? Didn't the Americans have an American Revolution before the United? Of course. So we already have the playbook. The playbook has been done by Europeans anyway. The playbook has been done by China. The playbook has been done by many other nations before. So what is the big thing about the African continent having a revolution for unity and for unifying the continent? Let's do it. Let's follow the model.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. We got you. That was exclusive and very insightful. And most importantly, you're talking about African Union needs, of course, we need an African Development Central Bank. Mr. Nziomi, we have the African Union, which, of course, is still being funded from outside. It's said in English that he who pays the piper determines the tune, and we will have the structures like the African Union and other regional blocks which are being funded from outside. But we want to be that continent which is sovereign without Western influence. But yet, we are being funded from outside. How do you see this playing out?
We need to go further to even say that the European Union, they're having a seat in the EU, whereas on the contrary, on the other hand,
Africa still struggles to have a seat.
Africa is still struggling to have a seat
at the United Nations Security Council.
Yes. So you see, in all of this, we are not independent, and that is why I'm thinking that we can respect the memory of those people who fought for African independence, notably Kwame Nkrumah and the others. And while respecting their memory, we equally note the fact that those who took over them have failed the dream that they planted in place. The dream germinated very well, but it has not been able to give itself a full plant, a full grown-up plant. Why do I say so? We cannot expect African Union. African Union, to me, it's there are even Jangi groups in the Equator that are more formidable and that are more fruitful, that discuss important things more than the African Union. Like my senior panelist said a while ago, people have been dying in Cameroon like other countries in Africa. And it's a surprising thing that African unions do not have statistics of how many people have been unjustly arrested. We have seen post-electoral crisis in Africa, like the case of Cameroon and the other country managed by, I don't know whether it's a woman or it's a devil or whatsoever. But we have not heard African Union come out for once to actually condemn people arrested, tortured, and killed in Cameroon, Burkina Faso, or whatsoever. So, to me, I even think that those who went there for the 9th Pan-African Conference or whatsoever, it's just like back in the days of the First World War and the Second World War, that were made to understand that people went there because they wanted to make acquaintances, not because they wanted to create impact. There is beauty in the grammar we blow on air, but there is less beauty in the impact of that grammar practically on the ground. What is the use of an organization called African Union when they do not have an independent budget. They do not have a standing army that can back their ideas. I mean, African Union, for many, has been considered as an organization suffering from cerebral malaria. African Union, to us, has no use. It has no weight. Because we have seen, let me go back to Chad. We expected the coup d'etat that took place in Chad at the time. That's where we measured the strength, the weight of the African Union. But you will bear with me like any other person that African Union proved its docility to the 100th degree. What did they do? Before long, Goita came in. Before we knew it, Burkina Faso. And with all what is happening in Africa, I think some countries in Africa that are even well structured are better managed than the African Union. African Union remains a paper tiger organization, a group of figurehead politicians who can speak. They can be funded a lot of millions. They use free flights. They go across Africa. They visit countries in Europe. They enjoy. They come back while the African masses are dying. I don't think African Union represents anything as of now. In fact, it should be dissolved. African young politicians should have as a goal, should have as an objective to outsmart African Union, including myself. If I come face to face with African youths who are ready to rise up and do something so that African Union can be history, I will join it. Owing to the fact that we have seen all what needed the attention of the African Union never reacted. Which means that they are just a figurehead organization for some scrupulous politicians who the African Union is abating, that is, African Union is aiding dictators in Africa. It's one of the organizations that have been helping sit-tight dictators in Africa to know that they can sit, because normally we would have thought that with multiple crises in Africa, Luis, AU was to be the one to put pressure on the international community if it was above their level to quell down the crisis. They would have been the ones to take note, take statistics, measure the consequences, and then put pressure on the international community to be able to come in at the right time for the right resolutions, right sanctions. But AU can go for a year, you hardly hear them offer a word. People are killed at the backyard, nothing is said. They go holding conferences that do not produce results. Conferences that you sit and you come back, and we are hearing today that people are dying in Cameroon. African Union do not have statistics.
All right.
Uprisings everywhere. Presidents are torturing, killing, arresting. I mean, killing their own citizens in different prisons in Africa. African Union is quiet. What is there for that moment for African Union to prove its word to Africa? What are the objectives of the African Union? Some time ago, at the creation of this union, at the time when it was called Organization of African Unity, the objectives were that they were to prevent Africans from going to war. That was part of the objective. Today, it has completely lost touch with the original objectives, why it was created. So I think African Union, to me, it's as useless. Even school clubs managed by students are better managed than the African Union. Oh. And the objectives and impact are better felt, because even in the school milieu, I'm talking now like a teacher, in the school clubs, we have club leaders who channel reports at least to the discipline masters and to the principals of the school. And that's why we go to the school milieu, we see serenity in some schools. African Union has failed.
All right.
And so I want to think that at one point in time, African media should even not report events concerning African Union.
Okay. Ambassador Wallace, you want to say something? You want to comment before I get to Dr. David?
Yeah, I want to make a comment before we lose track of it. What our brother there is saying is quite correct. But one thing I disagree with is that we don't get our reports and then report it back to get sanctions from Europe. If we're doing that, we are continuing the same cycle of we are paying homage to the master. If we set our own criteria, we apply the sanctions. That is, the African Union in its true sense, if it operates in its true sense and is funded by Africans, we apply the sanctions, not go to Europe for the sanctions or for the West. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to correct that misnomer, that thought process must be eradicated. We don't want to keep going to masters to correct ourselves. I believe in what we call Africacy. Africans doing it for themselves, by themselves. African solutions to African problems. We don't want their interference. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Ambassador Wallace. Now, Dr. David Matsanga, let me go back to what Ambassador said. He emphasized on the fact that the African Union needs to fund its own activities, and he equally emphasized on African Development Central Bank. But already we understand that the continent is heavily indebted, but we have the African Development Bank in place. But it appears that still those who hold the highest shares in the African Development Bank are not Africans themselves. With regards to the fact that we need to create an African Development Central Bank, but we already have the African Development Bank in place, which is not being used. How do we understand why Africans are not using this bank, but we still go about loaning from probably China, and we already in what many believe is a debt trap? Dr. David Matsanga, can you hear me?
I agree with my fellow panelists on a number of issues.
Okay.
Especially the gentleman in the studio and the ambassador clarification. Let me be very honest. What is African Development Bank? It's by name. Look at the shareholders. Rockefeller. Huh? What's wrong with you, boss? What? You, man, you in your own day. You even go to a meeting in Lomé, which is called by a president. You look here, a president, and who were in the meeting? Civil society. 3/4 of those guys are civil society. I think the ambassador will agree with me. Most of them who came there don't even know where River Nile is. Yeah, they don't know the source. They are like a Trump of the other side. He doesn't know even where Congo is. He said, I'm putting this, I'm shooting you. No, look, African Development Bank is owned by foreigners.
Mm-hmm.
We have a name. But brother, younger people, you people listen to me. We have a name. We don't have an African Development Bank. This money we all pay. We pay interest to Rockefeller. Oh, no. Whoa. Oh my God. We pay money to Americans. Citibank. Do you have a share? Which share do you have in African Development Bank? We are brokers. It is our name we use, but we are brokers. Brokerage. 56 countries now, as he said, if you created a bank, if we had good African Union chairperson, we created each country to have a African bank, African Union Bank, named African Union Bank, each country. and let people, small, medium, big businessmen, bank in that bank. It will generate profit. It is a matter of strategic planning. I'm a student of strategic management with a master's degree in strategic management on top of master's degree in international relations and political science, and on top of master's degree in conflict resolution. You can see the type of hats I wear. Yeah? We can manage AU, create a bank in each country, AU Bank, African Union Bank, African Union Bank. Forget about these pseudo things, names using our. And each government manages that bank and tells its citizens, bank in our bank. Give it 3 years. Strategic management. Give it 3 years, 4 years. With a capital of about 50,000. You think there's no government that can raise $20 million? It can raise. Governments can raise $20 million and give the bank and set it there. Within 2-3 years, the bank will bring money. And we shall have enough money to fund elections on the continent of Africa. If we want money for elections, one country will go and borrow from the African Bank, African Union Bank, not from EU, to be given a handout. Then some white guys come here to look after our girls in Uganda that they are observing elections. What observation? They are looking at our Ugandan ladies only, enjoying our sunshine. So these are some of the things that African Union Commission should be thinking about strategically. Point number 2, the younger man in the studio said African Union is called what? It is called African Photo Union. African photos. They like, have you noticed that everybody runs for photos? Ambassador, they run for photos. The current chairman, do you know what, my host? The current chairman is not even known. If you ask students in Africa, who is the chairman of AU? They say Nkrumah. You hear me? They say Nkrumah because they don't know the people today. The AU chairperson is not known. He has been dwarfed by the French. He has been dwarfed by UAE. He has been dwarfed by Egypt. He has been dwarfed by Qatar. In fact, Qatar, these guys get a lot of money. One time, I sue Ambassador, I sue Qatar for changing rules. You hear me? For changing rules of football 24 hours before the match starts, World Cup. I took them to the Old Bailey in London. And the Qatar minister and other people said, please, David, we are sorry. They changed it that alcohol cannot be sold again where they are said they now put alcohol like 40 miles away. I went to court to say, look, 40 miles away will kill people because people will drink and then drive. By the time we reach, we might have thousands dead. And why did you change it on the 24 hours before you, 72 hours before you open the matches? So the Qatar government said, let's talk outside the court. We were 260 of us. My application was number 6. So when I visited Qatar to sit down, they said, we withdraw the cases. You know, the Arabs don't want too much trouble. We withdraw the cases because I was going to take their properties in London. I'm a bad boy on international law. You don't touch me and get it for nothing. I studied it very well up to the last year. So here we are, Qatar. When I was talking to the Foreign Affairs Minister, he told me, the President of Africa. I said, who is the President of Africa? Mr. Moussa Faki. Huh? He said, what? President of Africa. He said, no. Mr. Moussa Faki is a clerk His secretary. He's supposed to be the Secretary General, isn't it, Mr. Ambassador? He's supposed to take Secretariat. He is not supposed to be near the president. He should just wait. Listen to me. Just wait for president, write notes. So when we go to Qatar, he calls himself president of Africa. And then later on in the hotel, the man came quietly and told me he has been paying money to this guy. Huh? That was the time when his friend Idris died. Idris was not even rotten in the grave. The man called for a summit in Qatar with the rebels. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine? My brother brought in a question of Chad. Chad should have been suspended from the African Union because there was a vice president who should have taken over power. There had been an election. But because Muhammad Faki comes from Chad, he never suspended Chad. I had a quarrel with him. Thanks God he's gone. And I thought he will never go back to Chad. The ambassador, watch my lips. He will never go back to Chad, ever. Why? Because he's being waited for there. They're waiting for him. So when you talk about African Union, creating a bank to bypass all these obstacles, the challenges that we have of money, of begging people, we should have a strategic management thinking capacity to diversify why we should look at reforms. We have given His Excellency President Ruto of Kenya to look at the reforms. But guess what, Ambassador? The people they call again, apart from Gambari, are you hearing me? Apart from Professor Gambari, whom I have worked with in Darfur, whom I know is a credible man, the rest are not credible.
All right.
The rest who were called on the committee to be reforms are not credible. Some have got warrants of arrest. And you are calling them, how will they sort Africa? So for me, African Union, to enhance Pan-Africanism, we must start by one, civil disobedience. Internal African civil disobedience. If you have touched one president, the 55 don't go. America will hear you. If you say Emerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe should not come to Washington, D.C., let the rest of Africa not go. Eventually, Africa, the president of America will do what? Will say, okay, let all of them come. Why do we don't have that spirit of the founding fathers that once you start high class, you start governance, you start America Brown, you start Obote, you touch Kenyatta, Jomo Kenyatta, you touch Nyerere, Kaunda, you touch Sekuture, you touch one of them, all of them say no, we are together. With that spirit, sir, Ambassador, you'll agree with me, we've lost it. And therefore, let's first have that spirit of unity amongst us.
All right.
And the last point I want to make before Ambassador comes in is this one. Every time we come closer to unity, something disorganizes us. You see, have you not seen that? I think you have seen. Every time. That's why Gaddafi died. If was killed. Do you know how many, if you ask today, apart from this man speaking on this microphone, who followed Gaddafi's killers? Dr. Masanga. The French prosecutor called me He was given my name. He called me for 3 months. I sat in Paris. I traveled in those places. People were quietly, where I got gathering all evidence to hammer Mr. Sarkozy. And I'm here. You can check the records. Together with the French prosecutor, we got Sarkozy. The first case we got. The second case, we got him. He has now applied. It's my application in the European Union Court of Human Rights. An amicus curiae that I wrote that has blocked. He can't come there. So now we need a longer sentence of 15 years because Sarkozy said he is too weak to serve prison. I refuse. I said the man calls 10 women a day. How can he be weak? How can he be weak? Let him go and serve the sentence. The judges agreed with us. But no African head of state. Show me, all of them were friends. So Gaddafi was giving people money. Was doing projects on African continent. None of the people followed up how Resolution 1973 of the United Nations Security Council was misused. Brother, the resolution, my fellow panelists, Resolution 1973 that dismembered Libya, 1973, dismembered Libya was misused by Sarkozy to score a personal problem, which was not supposed. He told a lie.
Okay.
Sorry. He told a lie that Gaddafi had weapons of mass destruction. Any of you who has seen these weapons, maybe on the panel, where are they stored? Who stored them? Mr. Host, who went to Rome. I saw you with microphone in Rome. That meeting should not have taken place. You should have gone there. Because you're a young man. Look at the men who were there. NGOs.
All right.
NGOs.
Doctor. All right. Doctor, let me come back to you after talking to you.
I'm sorry, but I have been so harsh. Ambassador, the younger man, I'm really pissed up when I see younger people like the host going to such a meeting. Matsanga, you don't call me to an NGO meeting. Did you see me there? My credentials are too high to sit with men who ask for money from hapless whites and say, come and teach us how to wash hands. Don't you know how to wash hands in Cameroon?
Doctor,
Doctor, when your hands are dirty. Doctor, someone gets your money and says he's coming to teach you how to wash hands. No.
All right, no. Okay. All right, thank you very much, Dr. Matsanga. I think Ambassador was in that gathering in Lome. I think
I was. I share a different view.
Yeah.
I got about 10 emails. My emails were hacked. I don't know how, saying not to go, and I agree 50% with what you said. But the other 50% is if you don't know, you can't influence. If you don't be there present, you don't know what has taken place. You are only getting third-hand narrative. And I'm a great believer in gather information at the point of where an occasion is taking place so that you have your own viewpoint. So I didn't know what the composition was of the entire invitees, but I thought if this is the one place that we can, and I made my points clear. They wanted to give me 7 minutes, and I asked them that I cannot be here to talk about serious Pan-African issues. I need 30 minutes, and I did, 25, 30 minutes. And I spoke truth to power. If you check back, you'll see what I said there. So I changed the paradigm from being there to say the truth to power. But what I wanted to say was this. Until the African Union is structured, we have to find an entity. I agree with you. Exactly what I said. We need our own African Development Central Bank. But I love your idea of putting an African Union Bank. Once the African Union is restructured and it is our money that is paying for it, we put an African Union Central Bank in a division of the central bank in every country. It is our money going in there. it is our funds, a portion of which will keep the operation of the African Union going, because there will be government money going in there, the government revenue, profit from it as normal banks make a profit. That goes, a portion of it goes to keeping and upkeeping the African Union headquarters itself and the African Union divisions in all those countries. So I agree with that entirely. Once we have restructured the African Union now, sets up its own Security Council, right? We don't need to go to the UN Security Council. We have the African Union Security Council that we set up. We have our own African Union national security force to take care of conflicts if and when we have to deal with that. Because every conflict, as you know, has been created to steal our resources, whether it's oil, gas, diamonds, lithium, cobalt, they are doing it purposefully to keep us, in a state of begging. Now, why I mentioned begging is that you mentioned that we will be in debt. No, we can cancel those debts against the reparations that they owe us. For example, what the Belgians did with 2 million, Namibia with the Germans. We put a figure against the reparations that we have been suffered by and wipe those debts off. There's nothing they can do about it. It's a moral issue. It's an international court of justice. You know what you're saying from going after international people who have been funded. We can say, all right, for these atrocities, we are wiping off these debts. Who is going to argue? Who's going to come and do what? You just put a figure against our reparations and against the debt. And if they are still owing us based on our reparations is higher than the debt, then they will go into debit against us for, we take the rest of that money to make use of, one way or the other. So we have to change our thinking. We have to restructure. We have to have a new path. That's why I said, is it a reality? And you see, not being there, you would not have gathered some of the speeches by other people, what people had to say, to be able to say what you need to say now, that yes, like I said in the beginning, the question is that, is it rhetoric? Yes, it was rhetoric, but is there reality? Yes, there's a reality too, because with an implementation plan that I have proposed, with a roadmap that I have also proposed, and with looking at all those who have had similar roadmaps, China, was it Dubai, was it Singapore? They had room. Was it the European Union? We now take bits from each and we can build our own. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I will have to go very soon because I'm getting calls for my other meeting, but that's my contribution.
Okay. We very much appreciate you. Thank you very much, Ambassador Wallace Williams.
Don't forget to get my number from the host.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, he will give it to you. Yes, please.
So that we can fire up. I can show you new types of how we can go about it. We're about to get there.
No, definitely. I like the idea of the African Union in every country and the African Union Bank. That is so that could be part of the restructuring. And just a note, you are very right. It is the Arabs and the French again who are controlling the African Union. More so now the Arabs. UAE, Qatar, Saudi, all of them have found favor with this new chairperson. As you say, they are clerks. They're not presidents of anything. They go about shouting to the world and fooling people. We need to let the world know who they are, what they are, and we need to expose them. Now, speak truth to power. If he is leaning towards the Arab nations and bringing them in, to influence, African decision-making, we have to stop it, and we have to expose it. It's important that we do it. Yeah?
Thank you.
Thank you again, Ambassador Wallace. Let's talk with you, Mr. Manuel. One of the issues which Africa equally faces with regards to 21st century Pan-Africanism is the way the West projects the continent, the image of the African continent. Most Western media, each time they project a report about the African continent, we look at the continent that is poor, in chaos, in difficulty, and continues war, and this plays on the mentality of the young Africans, especially when we are dominated by most of these Western medias. How do we use the media in Africa to begin to change its narrative of what the West constantly projects about the African continent?
That is what I was about to ask you, that who was supposed to project Africa positively to the world than Africans themselves? And let me take you out of the topic. You usually watch football, Premier League, La Liga, and all of that. Why is it that those top scorers in those leagues are coming from Africa? And when they score, it is the team that carries the victory. When last did you see a European team or club coached by an African? That is to tell you that we cannot go blaming the Western media. The Western media is manipulative tendency, and they have been succeeding because African media has failed. You can imagine that African presidents, I don't know the last time you were in a 2D to grant an interview to Mr. Biya. But when Mr. Biya is in France, he bellows like a Turk in front of young journalists. Even if he's barely walking, he revamps his energy.
Grant interviews.
He revamps his energy. He reinvigorates his energy to grant an interview to a foreign young man who is a journalist. Whereas back in Cameroon, he has finest journalists who can do the work. Somebody will also ask somewhere, why are you people not projecting your president in Cameroon? While in France, the French journalists are projecting him. It boils back to one thing: bad governance, bad leaders. We have criminals who are supposed to be in prison. They are presidents, they are leaders. We have people whose actually homes are supposed to be in prison, but they are running around in Africa as presidents, ministers, killing one another, and nothing is happening to them. So, we cannot go blaming the Western media. The Western media is out for a target. And once you fall in that psychological target to believe that you are inferior and they are superior, don't come to play the victim. Don't blame them. We should blame ourselves first. We cannot have African leaders who do not grant press conferences to their own home journalists, but they go begging and even paying in Europe to be interviewed. I can guarantee you there are many ministers in Africa, when RFE call them, they drop official documents to respond to RFE. And I know journalists in Africa, the other day I was talking in a Nigerian media that they told me, and I asked the young man, when was the last time you spoke with the governor of your state where you are interviewing me from? He laughed. The case is like that almost everywhere in Africa. So if they cannot talk to the African media and they can talk to the Western media, it means they themselves are making the world to understand that the Western media can better project Africa the way they like, more than the African media can do it. And also remembering that most African medias are funded by the West, by the West. And so there are things they cannot project. They do what we call yellow journalism. Whereas the Western world do not have just as an objective to paint us black, but they know what they gain by painting us black. I started by giving you an example in the domain of football. That why is it that the finest players that score so high, we can start naming them, Mohamed Salah, back in Africa, where is his position? Samuel Eto'o, whom today was being bashed by somebody who has never coached a second division team in his own home country, in Belgium, Mark Brice. We gave him an opportunity in Cameroon to insult our own legend. a legend that has made a name. Do we go now and blame the Belgian people? Did they send him? We give the Western world an opportunity to run us down, and we turn around to play the victim. And it cuts across all domains. Like, I don't know what they call him, Dr. Dr. Matsanga. He raised a point there, and I want to add. Africa does not only need to be restructured. African Union does not only need to be restructured militarily. They need to also go strategic to make sure that they have an economic standpoint of their own. They don't have to borrow ideas from the West. They don't need to run all the time. African Union meetings will be taking place out of Africa, Luis. It is sad, it is disgraceful, it is a shame. And we say we are independent. Now we are independent. But a young man sits in France and says, I order your president to release a political figure in his own country, else he will not attend a summit in Paris, or whether it was in Bordeaux. And the president does that and takes a plane, is running on his way, like a young man running to go and fetch water for the grandfather, to go and render an account. That is humiliation of the 21st century. And then we will sit here, we will talk how the West has been exploiting us. We have given the West every opportunity because, just look at Burkina Faso, Mali. I keep asking, and I will be asking till the day that the right thing is done. What is stopping other African countries from aligning with these young guys and kicking out the cabal, which is France? And kicking out the cabal that has decided that even all African citizens are killed and their interest is being protected on the African soil, they don't have a problem. So we are the problem. Summarily, if the African youth could rise and make it possible for the current leadership to be on exile, all to walk the streets on exile, that would have been the way forward. Because the current African leadership, starting from my country, has become so obsolete that the only means of governance is torture. The only means of governance is intimidation. The only way of governance is kidnapping. African leaders are kidnapping their citizens. They are torturing their citizens. They are killing them. They are driving them out of the country. We cannot be talking about Pan-Africanism, which is a concept that inculcates unity, that inculcates cultural diversity. Yet in the African continent, when somebody loses an election, he goes cracking down his opponents. That is not Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism warrants that no leader is above his people. You are a leader because the people make you to be. You are a leader to lead the people. You are not a ruler over the people. Which kind of Pan-Africanism are we portraying? Whereby the leaders pick up guns against the citizens. And we are saying that one day it is going to stop. And such leaders are going to render account to us, not to the Western world.
All right, very important, holding our leaders to account, and definitely someday they will be accountable to their definite actions. And just time for us to know what you think with regards to 21st century Pan-Africanism. If it's a reality or just rhetoric, let's know what you think. The numbers will probably be on your screen, so you can call us directly, probably on WhatsApp. You call us directly and share with us your opinions. We'll be glad to hear from you what you think and what contributions do you think, or what changes, reforms do you think can be made at whatever level to advance Pan-Africanism on the African continent. Let's know what you think. Dr. David Matsanga, one of the issues and the key issues is mind decolonization, and which has to do with the way Africa is being projected, the image of Africa. And I know you're not very comfortable with the 9th Pan-African Congress that held in Lomé, but then those who gathered there were trying to find out ways they can change the way African narrative is being presented out there, the way Africa is being projected, challenges faced in, projecting African narrative. Doctor, we need to tell our own stories as Africans, and this is what is definitely going to help, decolonize the mind of, especially the young population and those who are joining this fight, to reposition the African continent on the global stage. Now, what do you think we can do, and how do we start going about that? Doctor, I don't know if it's your microphone that's off because I cannot get the feedback from here.
I think Africa needs a renaissance. That's all. In summary, we need a renaissance. 40 years ago, China was the poorest country, sharing one rice scheme. I give this example every day. I tell my people every day. 40 years ago, China was the poorest on planet Earth, with one rice scheme in my country, Uganda. China went back to the drawing board. Renaissance means go back to the drawing board. After the death of Mao Zedong, or Mao Zedong, those who want to use whatever, Beijing, which was Peking, changed it. They changed it. They saw the format which they had used since 1949, after the revolution that brought in Mao Zedong and the Red Army, or whatever year it is. They saw it not working. They changed it. They came back. So at the moment, Africa needs to go back to a drawing table. If we don't go back to a drawing table, we are just doing rhetoric, not reality. We need to go back and find out why democracy of one man, one vote has collapsed. You hear me on that? The younger man raised something there. One, why all of our opposition leaders are fleeing? Your own country, you don't have your opposition leader is somewhere looking for food like Masanga, in exile. Another one from where? Guinea-Bissau. Military picked. Another coup is looming around that area. Any strategic management and security management expert like me, I will tell you there's another one around that region. Anytime it will come, we shall wake up in the morning and you'll see. I'm telling you. So, Africa needs to go to a drawing table, host. Think again. What do we do? What have we done wrong? What generation do we leave forward, back? When we go back, what shall we say? Nkrumah finds you in the grave. Say, what did you do for Africa? You say, I wasted these years doing nothing. We should go back and do something. Europe developed because it had a reformation, renaissance, industrial revolution, agricultural revolution, from agricultural revolution to industrial revolution. There was a gain. People learned something, changed their lives. Revolutions took place. People killed each other. The other time when I was trying to buy a house in UK, my family told me, why don't we buy a new house? The one we sleep in was built in 1642. Is this house still alive? No, people have changed. They have modernized. They have moved from the type of houses we used to have to houses of the modern times. Africa still remains stagnant, simply because mindset. Let's change our mindset. How do you are telling me that you go where? Where are you going? You are going to do what? How will you go there when you don't know how to go there? Host, how do you start going where? You go to Lomé when you don't know. If you ask people, any of the resolutions that came out of Lomé conference, If you ask any of them whether they have implemented even one zero conference photo, eat food and have a badge here, have a badge, wearing a badge, I'm a delegate. You find them, if you don't have that, in fact, you are embarrassed if you don't have that badge, wearing like a slave, being marked that number 50, that badge. How will the media in Africa shape itself? How do you shape when the capital is owned by the same imperialists? When you are bringing a program, you see, it's good you are bringing a program. Have you seen me reading notes? But most of the media in Africa reads notes. There is something called prompt. What is it called? A prompter. What is it called? A host.
It's a prompter, yeah.
Yeah. No, Matanga never uses a prompter. I have the brains, and I want to have such a younger man in the studio there. He can be in my group. Come. We need to make Africa work. You use the brains. You have now changed the models. How many Africans are sitting on Saturday today? How many Africans are seated on Saturday today discussing Africa? When you tell them that Arsenal is playing, oh, that's when they run. But if you ask them Cameroon is playing, they don't know even all the 11 players of Cameroon. Today you are going to Morocco. Morocco has occupied Western Sahara. Morocco has occupied Western Sahara. We have refugees in my country who are Sahawaris driven out of their country, driven and told to leave the country. They live in exile. The monster called Morocco has occupied Western Sahara. And we call ourselves West African Union. My foot! Which African Union is this? Show me the African Union you are talking about, which gives Sahawari status. Observe that a nation without a nation, a state without a state. When Morocco, the new colonizer of Africa, running projects, corrupt projects on behalf of France across Africa, has called people for football. All teams ran there like, oh my God, that they are opening the match tomorrow. I have decided to tell my Sky News DSTV people in London to switch off all channels of football until the matches are over in January. I don't want to know. In solidarity with Western Sahara, Polisario France, and the Western Sahara, Morocco should not be in AU. But it paid money to Mohamed Faki, was paid cash in dollars to accept Morocco back. Morocco left us saying we are black people. It needs to be part and parcel of the European Union, not African Union. Why did we bring Morocco back here? Why? We are doomed. We are cursed. We are a continent that does not deliver, that does not stick on its own mandate. We are a continent that only bemoans, writes parables. We are a continent that laments. We wanted to add more pages on the book of lamentation, but we don't take action. If Trump is calling one leader, excluding 4, or calling all African leaders to go to Washington and exclude some, don't go. Don't go. It will teach the West that we are united. But at the moment, you recently saw Trump calling a few weaklings, including the ones that are installed in the Senate. Without me, fire would not. Look at my programs that I did, hammering Mr. Mark Sally. It was Dr. Matsanga on him, insulting him like the way I'm doing it today. I said, release those guys. Now he has reached there. He moves about everywhere, and then he doesn't even listen to anyone. That Gambia you see there, who liberated it? This Matsanga here. When they closed the radio station, I took my satellite radio station with my satellite. Gambians were ready to rally in millions on my radio. Yahya Jammeh did not know where the radio was broadcasting from. That is the Pan-Africanism, you see.
Mm-hmm.
That is the Pan-Africanism. We can change it if we have determined people, not people who put money first. Most of the people who are in Lome, we are looking at allowances. Apart from you, you must have used your own money because you wanted a story. But if you ask Ambassador quietly there's something to be given.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
So my position, therefore, is this. Let us follow President Museveni's Pan-Africanism. You can hate President Museveni the way you want. You can talk about him. I don't. When it comes to Pan-Africanism, my president in my country, Uganda, where I was born, he speaks about Pan-Africanism first. Pan-African unity, integration. But why? For example, why should I want to go to Rome. I tried to go to that conference. The plane wanted to take me to, do you know where the plane wanted to take me? Paris. Hello? Eh? Host. Eh? Go to Paris, then come. I said, When I tried the Kenya Airways direct, it became very expensive. But when I went through Air France, then he brings you to Togo, Lome, cheap. They have even controlled us in our thoughts of which airline you should use. They want theirs to be used. So Pan-Africanism must stop being rhetoric.
All right.
And start being a reality. For me, from this end, Dr. Matsanga, I'm on a reality. Okay. Those who want to follow me, follow me. I hate all international agencies from ICC, ICJ, UN. What are you doing in UN, you, my friend? They will call you for a conference and you go for UN conference. Do you have a say there? You are just a cleaner. African countries are cleaners in UN. What the 5 members decide is what they follow. Is there anything they veto? Why don't you create an African General Assembly? One General Assembly per year. Let's go and develop Ethiopia. We take more money to Europe, to New York, which is already developed, and it has stolen a lot of our money, including our black brothers who were taken. They have never paid us even a penny. You take money there for... Some of these guys go there for shopping for their calicos and their concubines. They don't go there. You look at the conferences of AU, of General Assembly. When you start speaking, an African leader speaks to his desk, and the people he came with from his capital city. Hey, why do you go there?
All right.
Time has come to talk like the way we talk. And there may be some younger men like that one in the studio will pick me one day. You abducted people. You went and abducted 10 people. They are languishing there. Then you tell me African Union, we go where? Go and do what? Sit with you. You haven't documented anything. I'm a lawyer, international lawyer for those guys. I know everything.
Okay.
I have a case with them on Nigeria abduction. I have a very serious case, which has put a caveat of the embassy in London. 2 of the embassies, I might sell them very soon. Don't play with me. I'm not joking. Because you can't punish people. Time has come for us not to be punished. And when you call me to this program, I must speak the truth, because I speak for voiceless people, millions and millions of Africans, millions of Cameroonians who cannot speak, millions of Nigerians who cannot speak, millions of people in the Ivory Coast who cannot speak. Matanga speaks for them, voluntarily. And I will continue to do that all the time.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. David Matsanga. Certainly, we take a few minutes to listen to what those of you out there have to say. We told you can get to us through the number on your screen. Call us directly on WhatsApp audio calls. We'll be able to hear you. Just time enough for us to get to you. Hello, you're live on the Afrique Media, the program, the Pan-African Debate. Welcome to join us. Let's hear your name and where you're calling us from. Hello, we have a call online. You're there. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Hope you're doing good too. Let's know your name and where you're calling us from and your contribution.
Yes, my name is Bob. I am calling you from Togo, Lomé.
Okay.
Yes, I want to intervene. I want to say something. That's the reason why I was calling you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you. Let's have your opinion, please. Go ahead.
Please?
We can hear you. Go ahead with your contribution, please. You're live on the program.
Okay, I am very interested, on your debate, and I'm greeting your interveners, all those who are taking part to the discussion. I am very interested, and I greet them also. I want to propose an idea. I was saying it last time to one of the members. The Congress of, 9th Congress of Lomé is in the light of all what is Panafricanism. So today it is like Panafricanism is diverse or is taking multiple forms. So I want to propose that people, interveners like Badakani and so on, others, and the professor who is talking right now, if it is possible to come out with a greater lines, the outlines of Pan-Africanism out of or after the summit or the Congress or the meeting, in order to submit a document with guidelines of Pan-Africanism. You can notice that today the Pan-Africanism is defended by everyone, by many people, and today, in order to come out victoriously, all those who have been fighting in the Pan-Africanism, like Badakani and so on, I am proposing to, as possible, meet all the presidents that are Pan-Africanists as as possible. The new president of Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, Togo, and Equatorial Guinea, and others. So after that, if you meet with them in the light of our forefathers, Kwame Nkrumah and others, the ideas that they submitted. So in this light, we are going to come out with a document, and if we have a document, or even if it is taught in all Africa, now we know ideas, we can teach it to the youngest. the youngest and defend 1 point,
Right.
so that the fighter may be the one and solid, or stronger.
Okay.
Yes, it's the contribution that I think to bring to you.
Thank you very much from Lumi. We appreciate you being part of the program this afternoon. Calling us all the way from Lome, the Togolese capital, where the 9th Pan-African Congress held recently, with participation from all around Africa and out of the continent. Mr. Nziumu, we just probably briefly were talking about the fact that Africa wants to, do better for itself. There's a lot that Africa wants that should change. The young people think at this moment actually they are ready to change the narrative, but the issue is, despite the efforts we're making and despite the fact that we actually know what is wrong and where things are going wrong, the West is actually watching, and they definitely are comfortable with the fact that Africa is where it is because where we are today benefits them in terms of if we are in war, they benefit from our resources. If our leaders are paying allegiance to them, and if we have leaders who are protecting their interests, it's to their benefit, and they want the narratives to remain the same despite the fact that we want it to change. They will not want it to change. How do you think we can bypass such roadblocks? Because we understand that the West, they benefit a lot and they want us to remain where we are.
No, I think what we are doing here today is not a child's play. We are already on a move. I started by saying the African media has failed because they don't project the PowerPoints of Africa. Instead, they wait for the Western media to give us a bad name so that they can hang us. What African youth should be doing now is we need a paradigm shift. We need to rise up above fear. We need to rise up above intimidation. And to see how we should forget about fighting for your country alone. If I am having a fight against corruption in Cameroon, I should equally be thinking of launching a fight against corruption across Africa. It should be a continental fight to get better leadership on board. It should not be an individual fight. So I think, like my brother said there, I am sure we will need to connect one day. We need more ideas. We need ideas that at times they are even revolutionary ideas, not to sit and talk while doing nothing. Because I have noticed that African youths are into talking more than action. Whereas African youths carry 80% of the population. It's true that the guns that are killing us are brought by the 20% old men who have refused to leave power. But then, we need to think otherwise. We need to put up our thinking caps. And again, we need to fight to be in position of leadership. Because until we get the position that we can use to change the dynamics, we remain at the talking position and nothing will be changing.
Okay. Dr. David Matsanga, let me end with you. And you probably, young people actually, they are watching you, and the young people actually are the ones who definitely are going to hand the command baton to them to continue the fight for Pan-Africanism. What do you think the young people should do, Dr. David Matsanga? Because Pan-Africanism is on the lip of every young person today, and when they turn and look at Ibrahim Traoré, they are proud. But then there's a lot of obstacles that they need to encounter along the line. So what do you think young people should do, and what message do you have for them? Dr. David Matsanga, your microphone, please.
Positive neutrality, constructive engagement. That's all. And the youth. That's why in Africa, at the moment, we don't have opposition. Where is the opposition? Show me one of yours. Where is it? He used to work with the government, then he ran away. Is he opposition? You ran away when you have already eaten and spoiled. You get my point? Credible opposition is needed. Positive neutrality will tell you, will teach you to criticize positive, neutral, stand with your own vision in you and a passion to say, I, Dr. David Matanga, I disagree. You know me very well that on several occasions in Africa, I've stood alone. On the question of ICC, I opposed the ICC single-handedly in the whole Africa, south of Sahara, north of Sahara, north of Limpopo, south of Limpopo. Go and check the ICC records. The only man who said ICC is fake, their way of investigations are flawed, completely flawed, fake. They come and pick people. Why hasn't the ICC come to Southern Cameroon? People there need to be picked up. Commanders of Cameroon army, police, intelligence, killing people need to be picked up. Why is ICC selective? I told the whole world that this is a fake organization. And I won. They tried to take those in Congo who are stupid. But still, Babugo is back. I won. Still, Pierre Bemba, I won. In Kenya, you saw, I won. All the 6 that were in ICC were fake. Were fakely taken there by fake people, NGOs, again paid by America, which does not subscribe to ICC. I refused. Single-handedly refused. People hated me. I lost my job in Sky News, lucrative job, where I was earning money. I could even sleep on a tree at night if I decided with my money. But I stood firm for the sake of Africa. Positive neutrality. It grew in me. From 1978 in Arusha, when we wanted to overthrow Idi Amin, I learned that word of positive neutrality, constructive engagement, containment. I did not know that I was going to study conflict resolution in the future. Learn to leave room. Most of the youths today are being paid. You are being paid to go and demolish your country, destroy your country, burn down the buildings. But tomorrow you will need those buildings. If the leader goes, for example, goes down by accident, God forbid, you need the building. Why do you burn it? Hey, why do you burn it? Why is the anger so much? Then you spend the taxpayers' money, the real tax that should have brought, and it is there. Why do you burn the building? Don't burn the building. Engage. If it is too much, withdraw. 2, institutions. Youths need to cultivate institutions that will propel them towards leadership. We must start teaching our people that when you lose an election, don't call Washington that I've lost the election. Concede and look at the mistakes. Also the winners of elections. Look, I've already told you, 1 man, 1 vote in Africa is useless. Apart from a few countries. Am I wrong? Look at the youths who wanted to destroy Tanzania. Where were they paid from? For the foundation. Hello? Hello? For the foundation paid youth from all over Africa to come and crowd in Tanzania. Some of them didn't know the roads of Tanzania. Some of them did not know how many types of police we have in Tanzania. And they ended up, have you seen Tanzanians? Which Tanzanian is crying? Who? No. It is us from other countries, Uganda, Kenya, crying for people who are missing. Tomorrow they will say, oh, they are missing. No, people, they are missing because they were hired mercenaries. So the youth must also know the agenda. You want to change, but what is the change for? You don't need change by destroying property, looting people's property, killing people, beating up people, burning buildings, destroying buses, railway station, airports. No. You need change by constructively engaging and saying, please, this is it. Some of the things, code of conduct. Youth must learn that in every election, like every football club, there are rules. I'll speak about Tanzania because the leader of Tanzania, everybody is harassing the president of Tanzania. But there is nothing wrong. She did. An election date was set. The leader of opposition was supposed to go and sign documents so that he takes part in a football contest. If he had grievances, he could go to court after signing the documents first. You don't go in court with dirty hands. And then you start calling Matsanga and other people, oh, help us. We have the election, this woman has locked us. No, she's defending her country because you refused to sign documents that conduct elections.
All right.
So for me, I am just asking the youth in the corner there that much as I am going, for me, I'm going host. God is still holding me here. I am in my 7th car now. Continue to engage with youth. I open up spaces, and they like my spaces. I can hold my space for 7 hours without non-stop single. I don't need a call because I want to educate Africa.
All right.
Very much. God bless.
Thank you very much, Dr. David Matsanga. You're a political scientist and international relations expert. We very much appreciate your time and contribution this afternoon on the program. It was a pleasure having you. We equally had with us Ambassador Brigadier General Wallace William, who is a Pan-Africanist, where he was part of the program this afternoon. We had Mr. Ndio Emmanuel, who is a civil society actor. Mr. Ndio, it was a pleasure having you, and thanks for being on today's program.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
And of course, yeah, thank you once again, Dr. Matsanga. And today we had to discuss on Pan-Africanism in the 21st century, and of course, if it's a rhetoric or a reality. And we want to thank equally those of you who got to us via call. We had Bob, who is a lecturer in Lomé, Togo. He called us, and we thank you for being part of the program this afternoon. Those of you who are watching, those of you who tried to reach us and was not possible, we equally thank you for always being there. Take the rendezvous as we'll be meeting again same time next week to discuss more on what is making headline news around the African continent, and most especially to advance the continent Africa, the mother continent. Until then, it's a pleasure and always a pleasure. Thank you very much, and stay with programs on Africa Media. Bye bye for now.